A real deal situation, like when a cat's wife gets sick, when your children get sick, when you're in the emergency room with your family, right? Don't none of that other stuff matter, right? But the work that you put in every single day, the mindset that you cultivate every single day, the spirit that you cultivate every single day, the work ethic, the dedication, the commitment, that's you, right? That's your essence, that's your ethos, that's who you are, right? Like I'm Ink. Like I believe it with every ounce of the word when I tell a cat, my arm and my hand paralyzed, my heart isn't. It isn't.
I always say this, man, like we piss off the opportunity we have in America. We piss off the opportunity we have to make an impact, to make a living for ourselves, to build wealth for ourselves, to do things for our community. We just pissed away. And so when I think about this here in life, like what are you pissing off? What are you tricking off, man? What talents, gifts were given to you and you just say, I don't really appreciate it. So as you watch people like Inky, as you study people like Inky, and you say, okay, cool, man, like this guy's mindset, if I can subscribe to this mindset of thinking, how do I maximize what I got, and how does my perspective change to have gratitude for what I have right now in this moment in my life?
Sold out service, and you know we've been working. We serving, we earning. The watches, it's hurting. Big heart, but it started with Chris. Seen a lot when it comes to this biz. Don't serve, don't earn. They gotta shift keys to be a capitalist.
How's it going, guys? Chris Hart here, Sold Out Servant. Today we'll be watching a video from the Pivot Podcast. It's actually an interview of Inky Johnson, right? Ex-college football player, had a tragic accident, paralyzed himself from the neck down, was able to come back from that injury, walk again, and be one of the top motivational speakers in America today. We'll be looking at his video and really watching this interview, man. It's just analyzing his breakthrough, his triumph, his journey, and where he is today in life.
And you know, growing up the way I grew up, you know, it's a 2-bedroom house, 14 people, Southeast Atlanta. It's the best time of my life. You know, one of the best times of my life, I would say that. You know, because you had everybody in the crib and you learned a lot. I always tell people the fortunate part for me was I got to see both sides of the fence every single day, right? When I walked out of my door, I got to see cats that made the right decisions and what it yielded, and I got to see cats that made the wrong decisions and what it yielded.
It's crazy, man. You just that right there, right? 2 minutes in, we got nuggets dropping. Sometimes when you grow up in unforeseen circumstances, man, you're growing up in the hood, you're growing up in a tough environment. You hear all the time, right? You have a dad who's an alcoholic. He tells you what to do and tells you what not to do with your life in the future. And so you see someone like Inky Johnson, you know, and the question was asked, man, how'd you make it out of this, man? And I think it's obvious for a lot of us, we see what bad decisions yield in life and we see what good decisions yield in life. I think having that perspective in life for many people can be a positive outcome.
That helped navigate me to a place such as Tennessee was I listened, right, to cats that I felt like had my best interests at heart. Even if a cat was in the street, you know, and they gave me advice and insight and I knew they had a good heart, I would listen, right? Because just because a person makes certain decisions and choices, that doesn't mean that they're just a terrible person. Like my uncle, man, my uncle is in prison, one of the best people I know, right? And he could be a product of his circumstances and situations because of the way we grew up. And so for me, I always felt as if I had been blessed with a gift and I didn't want to mess it up, right? And so when I was coming up in that 2-bedroom home with 14 people, the thing that I wanted to do more than anything was I wanted to make my mother proud because my mother was working a double shift at Wendy's, and I wanted to make my grandmother proud. And I'm the type of person, I'm extremely loyal. And so I had a lot of people that helped me, man, that didn't have to, right? Like the cat paid for me to play ball, like out of his pocket. He didn't have to do that. And so for me, whenever people would do stuff for me, I was the type of person, I couldn't see myself doing something on the opposite end of that, letting them down because I knew they didn't have to do it. No cat had to come to my house and be like, oh, this cat growing up, 2-bedroom house, 14 people, let me help him. We weren't their responsibility.
He sees that people are pouring into his life and spending and investing to him, literally investing money to him, and says, hey man, these people have paved the way for me. I think sometimes it's like looking back on my life and my perspective, okay, who has paved the way for you? Was it a mother, was it a father? You see it so much in adolescence, right? Adolescence, when you're in high school, and you're playing sports, and your mom and dad are doing certain things for you. Some people are grateful, some are grateful. Obviously, there's a level of gratitude here coming from Inky Johnson. I think these are signs of successful people. As you hear his story, obviously he's not an NFL football star. He didn't go to the NFL because of his injury, but he's someone of significance, someone of importance, someone who's making an impact on the world today because of his level of gratitude for what his family did, from the level of gratitude for what others did for him. He doesn't want to let others down.
Like the way my mother raised me was, Ink, the world don't owe you nothing, right? If you're gonna make something out of yourself, get up and make it happen, right? And so me watching her work a double shift and coming home, driving an old beat up Buick Regal, hubcaps off the car, seats torn up, and not making an excuse, it shaped my mentality and my perspective and my spirit and the way I live my life. And so when I got to Tennessee was gravy for me, right? It was gravy. The journey getting there wasn't so much of gravy, but when I got there, it was gravy.
Ink, what does that look like, man? Because that blew my mind. Well, I ain't grow up with no silver spoon in my mouth, but 14 in a 2-bedroom?
Yeah.
What happens at 11 o'clock at night? Like, where do people go? What do people do?
Yeah, we on them pallets, man. We pull out them sheets. We on them pallets, right? That's the beauty of it, right? You there with your cousins. Well, it's a blessing and a curse, right? Because many nights you will be on that pallet and you'll be talking to your cousins, and sometimes you had questions. Like I would always say, sometimes I was on the floor and I wish I was under the same roof as my father, right? Because of some of the things I would see, and I wish I could come home and say, hey, Pops, man, I saw this today. Like, what's your thought process on that? But me and my cousins would pitch and catch about it, and we would try to figure out life together. We had our uncles and stuff like that, but the beauty of it was it made you grateful. Right? When you would wear a shirt on Monday, your cousin would wear it on Tuesday, your other cousin would wear it on Wednesday, and y'all would go to the same school, right? And cats knew y'all was wearing the same clothes. It's all good, right? It made you grateful when you couldn't just go in there and ask for something to eat and be like, no, I don't want that. You had to eat whatever got put on the table, right? And you had to finish it. You know what I'm saying? And so it created a certain spirit to where I was grateful, I made the best of it, and I wasn't tripping. Like, it wasn't like we was growing up and it was like every single day we would get up and be like, oh man, we growing up like this. Nah, like the neighbors was living that way as well, right? And so it was just the environment we was in, and we made the best out of it. But I loved it, man.
Another sign there is just gratitude, man. The environment he's in, I mean, you're growing up with, well, he said 14, 18 people under one roof, cousins on pallets. What are pallets? Like the pallets they have like at Walmart in the back when the truck's alone. I'm not sure what he means by pallets, but they're sleeping on pallets, man. And knowing that, okay, I didn't have a father at the house, man. I'm processing issues with my cousin. My same cousin is wearing the same shirt on Monday that I wore on Tuesday, that he's wearing on Wednesday. But it made him grateful. And man, it's funny because I see this a lot with people who have humble beginnings. I mean, sometimes we despise humble beginnings, man, but I think we have to look back and say these humble beginnings give us a level of gratefulness. Because you didn't have it before, man. So I look at my son's life, my daughter's life, my wife's life, or our lives, and I say, man, like, I'm so grateful to what I have because I didn't have this growing up. My son needs to have a level of gratefulness. Like, son, I didn't have this growing up, son. I didn't have this type of household. And you see it in Inky here, man, a level of gratitude for where he came from, where he's going.
Was there ever a point when you told your mom, look, I got you? Mm-hmm. You know, whatever it is, whatever it takes, no, I got you. I'm going to get us out of this situation, or I'm going to pay you back for everything that you've done for me.
Absolutely. Man, me and my mom would be in the park when she would get off her shift, and she would come in and I would hug her, I would kiss her. I would say, Mom, if you don't mind, can you turn on your car lights? All right, I got to do some extra drills. I got to make it to the league. Just a kid with a dream, you know what I'm saying? And she would sit there, and she never was like, nah, Ink, I'm tired, let's go. And she had every right to do it. And if she would have said it, I'd have got my butt in the car, and it would have been all good. I wouldn't have felt any way about it. But when she would do that, I would be like, man, I'm gonna make good on these sacrifices. Like, I got you, right? And I don't think it mattered to her either way. Like, my mom wasn't the type that she was tripping on like, oh, Ink, you gotta make it, right? You gotta make it and you gotta take. My mom never said that to me. That was something that I wanted to do personally because I felt as if it was the vehicle that I could help take care of my family. And so when I was young, I was saying it, but she never put that type of pressure on me to where she was just like, Ink, you gotta do this, which I appreciated.
Yeah, that's cool.
I watch, so much of your stuff, and then studying for this and seeing where you came from and all those things, I was like, oh, Ink actually kind of hood. You know what I mean? Like Ink grew up, because it's just the eloquence in which you speak, right? I don't use he's articulate. Right. I think that's a cop out as opposed to what, right? The eloquence in which you speak, it shows not only experience, but it shows education, it shows study. But you talked about telling your mom, cut the lights on, right? So I can go do extra drills and having that dream. You know, you get to Tennessee, your sophomore year, you begin to play, and there's a night where that dream ends.
Absolutely.
Can you take us through the night? What led up to the hit? What's the feeling when you're on the ground and you're trying to figure out what's going on with you, and then the start that turned you into the Inky we know now?
Yeah, man, it was September 9th, 2006. I remember it vividly. We was playing against Air Force my junior year at the University of Tennessee. I was starting at corner in my second year as a starter. It was the fourth quarter of the game, a little bit over 2 minutes left, and Air Force had the ball, and we was up. And so we break the huddle. At the time, Gerard Mayo, he was our captain, right? And he called the play, and as we break the huddle, we had quarters coverage. And so I had a quarter, keeping everything back to front. Play starts to unfold. I'm looking at the quarterback. He's tapping the ball. Cats running their routes. Quarterback looks in my direction, releases it. Cat catches it. I go to make a routine tackle. So I thought. And so when I roll up to hit him, at the point of contact, as soon as I make contact, it seemed as if everything in my body just left, right? My body went completely limp. I fell to the ground. I blacked out. Never experienced anything like that before. Been in a lot harder collisions. And when my eyes opened, my teammates were over me. They was like, "Hey, get up, let's go." And I was like, "I can't." And it was a shock. At the time, it was going from the crown of my head to the bottom of my feet, one of the scariest moments of my life. And then it eventually left, but it stayed in my right arm and hand. I thought it was just a stinger or a broken arm. And they brought the spine board out, took me off the field, and they get me to the hospital. And they was just telling me, like, we're gonna take you back, run a couple tests, you know, put you in a room and see what's up. And so I didn't think it was anything serious, right? I still couldn't really feel my arm, but I thought it was probably broken, stinger. I didn't think it was anything life-threatening. And so when they ran the test, they brought me back into the room. My mom came in, she kissed me on my forehead, cracked a joke. She walked out, and when she walked out, I flipped my head to the left, and I remember seeing the head doctor come in. And he was saying, guys, get in here. We got to rush this kid back to emergency surgery. He's about to die. And I thought he was joking, right? Because I had been there and everything was so calm.
Wow.
And I was like, die? Like, away from me? Like, die? And he was like, yeah. I was like, what happened? It's like, we ran the test. We noticed you ruptured your subclavian artery in your chest. You're bleeding internally.
Wow.
We got to rush you back and take the main vein out of your left leg and plug it into your chest in order to save your life. He said, I guarantee you, you won't be alive in the morning. You'll bleed out. And I was like, let's go. And the next morning I woke up. I had 6 incisions down my left thigh, 1 incision across the left side of my neck, 1 across the right, twice through my right rib, cut out my right pec, bottom of my armpit to the bottom of my hand, 350 staples in my body, and they had bandaged me from my neck to my knees because I tore the nerves in my brachial plexus, which are the nerve roots that go from your spine that control shoulder, arm, hand, fingers.
It's crazy, man. A routine tackle. He says he come up to make a hit, man. The impact was never as big as a hit. He's had bigger hits before in the past. As I'm watching this, while I'm watching Inky Johnson, obviously, man, this is a traumatic moment in his life, man. He's a young man, 2006. He's probably 20 years old, 21 years old, a junior at University of Tennessee. Think about our life sometimes, man. Like there are moments in our lives when we make a pivotal moment, a pivotal switch, a pivotal hit, a pivotal moment in our life, a pivotal decision in our life, man, that you can't control. Things just gonna happen. Boom, it happens to you. The crazy thing is that as you watch this unfold, we have seen his life unfold, and we can look back here, right, and see what's happening with the body of work of his life, and look back and say, man, we know how he responded to it. Because look at where he's at now. One of the top motivational speakers in America. Like, he's speaking around the world, really, in the world, right? But think about in life, man, like what has happened in your life? What was a moment in your life, something that took place and you couldn't control? Obviously, I understand bad decisions lead to bad outcomes. But there are times in life when something happens, we say, man, it's the enemy, or I got bad luck, or what is this? But how do you respond to that moment? Because right now, this was life-threatening, man. This is his life. Football is what he did, what he played. And in one moment, boom, it's gone, taken away. What's been taken away from you in your life before? Man, you know, was it a loved one? Was it a sport you played? Was it an injury? Was it a job? Was it an opportunity taken away from you? The key thing is how did you respond to that? And we'll watch this story unfold and see what perseverance Inky showed through this outcome and through this tragic moment.
At the last minute, he made a slight shift. When he made the slight shift, his helmet hit me between my shoulder and my neck. So it sent my neck one way, shoulder opposite way, ruptured the artery, tore the nerves from my spine, and it paralyzed my right arm and hand. Ended my career. Yep.
So when you see or hear the doctor come in the room and you say, all right, let's go, because he's explained to you, this is what's happening, this is what's going on, and in your mind, this is how I gotta save my life. Mm-hmm. At that point though, are you thinking about anything else, or is it just about living? Because like I know for me, the thought of, okay, you're never going to get to do the one thing you love more than anything ever again.
Absolutely.
Could you even think of that in that moment, or was it just too fast?
It was too fast. Mm-hmm. To be honest, it didn't cross my mind. You know, like, I didn't think I could lose it all in a moment. You know, like you hear this stuff coming up, like your career can end, like something can happen, but it's the bravado of a young athlete, of a cat when he plays ball. You thinking, yeah, that's cool, but it ain't gonna happen to me, right? Like you just got that thought in your head. And so even when they said they had to save my life, I'm still thinking like, even when they save my life, like I'm gonna come back, right? Like that's my train of thought. Like it happened so fast, I never thought like, all right, they saved my life, tomorrow when I wake up, my career gonna be done. Even when my career was done, I didn't think my career was done. I couldn't believe it. It was surreal.
How long did the why me moments last?
Why me?
2 years.
Wow.
2 years, a solid 2 years. Wow. And the reason I would say 2 years is because with a brachial plexus avulsion, that's like the time frame they give you if you're gonna get anything back, right? They put you in a 2-year process and they say, all right, if something is gonna come back, because I had no feeling, no movement, if something is gonna come back, it's gonna come back in a 2-year time frame. But within those 2 years, it's all type of tests being done. They sending me up to the Mayo Clinic, they shooting dye in my back with long needles, like it's just a strenuous process. And so it took me about 2 to come to a level of peace to where I was like, all right, it might be done.
This is my life.
But in that time frame though, much like RC was saying, you know, you could have fallen into depression, just giving up on everything. But instead of that, you pivoted, right?
How do you pivot?
You parlayed that into pretty much where you are now in life. Why didn't you quit?
Just being real with you, Fred, like, I wasn't raised like that. Like, I could lose everything, bro, like, and I'ma still scrap. Like, that's just how I was raised. That's how my mother raised me. And so even when my career ended, like, I was raised a certain way to do the right thing in spite of. My whole life, I never had everything I felt I needed.
Look at his life, man. Prior to being in Tennessee and those circumstances, living in that house with so many people and living in the hood and growing up, it's crazy how like your life experiences, man. And sometimes we want life to be easier. Obviously, like, we want an easier life, right? We want life to be easier, but because his life was hard, he was prepared for this moment in life. He says, that's not how I was brought up. He wasn't brought with a silver spoon in his mouth. Life wasn't always easy. And we sometimes get judged as someone who has a better upbringing, man. It was like, obviously, yeah, there's circumstances where you have better platforms given to you, education, wealth, circles of influence, all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying it's bad at all. What I'm saying is this: because of Inky's upbringing, because of where he came from, because of the hood, his mom, hardworking mom, single mom, working 2 jobs, this life-changing moment happens to him. 2 years of uncertainty. He's like, man, that's not how I was raised, man. I wasn't brought up that way. Because I've been through so many circumstances that were tough. It kind of just, the grit is the grit. The grit was already instilled into his heart, mind, body, and spirit. And so when this happens to him, boom, he's prepared for it. So I believe that God's created him for this moment, that God said, hey, this is what God knew what was going to happen to him, and said, hey, I'm bringing you up in a way in this world that's going to prepare you for a moment in life that will break most people, but not you.
Always felt like I was going against the odds my whole life. And so I'm comfortable there, right? Whereas most cats, when they in that space and place, it's very uncomfortable. I'm very comfortable in opposition. Like, I'm very comfortable in adversity. I'm very comfortable when I don't have all the resources. I'm very comfortable when I lose things because that was my life, right? It's like Bane and Batman. When Bane told Batman, you adopted the dark, I was born in it, right? And so I was very comfortable there. And so even when it happened, I was still going to rehab. I was still showing up, going to workouts with my teammates. I was still going to meetings with this false thought that, man, at the end of the two, I'm gonna be back.
Right.
I'm gonna be stronger than ever. And I had a day, man, in an indoor football facility to where it just hit me. Like I went to one of my rehab sessions and I had been going for a while and I wasn't seeing nothing, like no results. I'm talking about every time I would go, they would have a different device they would try out and it would be nothing. And one day I went out on the turf in the indoor and I just broke down, bro. It was like, it was freedom, right? It was tough, it was heavy, cried, and on the opposite side of that, it was like, all right, you got it out. Like, let's move forward now. But I had been holding that for 2 years until that day when it hit, when reality set in, like, nah, Ink, it's done. Like, it's a wrap. Like, it's time to close this chapter. That was a hard day for me.
And that next day you woke up, bro, because you grind from living with 14 people in a 2-bedroom. You grind to get to Tennessee, playing ball. One hit against Air Force, you still grinding. You say your mama ain't raised you like that. You still grinding. And that day that you broke down and got to a point that I need to find something else to do. Like, this football shit it's not gonna be there no more. Like, bro, that realization, but that next morning, I think that, just listen to it, bro. I'm tearing up a little bit too, but just listen to it. That next morning, how did Inky Johnson, that we all know, all the followers, all us watch your stuff, was it created in that realization of this football shit's gone?
Yeah. I think a little bit of it was created in that moment, but I think also it had been cultivated over the years. And so, just to explain my train of thought, so when we tell a cat, all of us play ball, right, and come from that background. And so when you tell a cat every single day, all right, man, you gotta be dedicated, you gotta be committed, you gotta work hard. You talk to young cats, kids, we got kids, and you tell them and you stress the importance of, hey man, show up on time, right? Do what you gotta do, right? Like, handle your business a certain way. And cats don't really see the value in it, right? Cats go, yeah, it's cute. Like, that sounds good. Yeah, I hear you. Why me? Like, I ain't got to do that. Cats say all type of stuff. Cats got all type of response. I'm paid already. Cats got all type of responses, right? Until something real happens, like a real situation.
In my years of coaching, working with people from sales organizations, church organizations, leadership roles, and those principles of hard work, showing up, putting in the work, man. You know, the bamboo branch, right? The bamboo is growing down in the roots, and you don't see it coming to fruition on the outside, and then one day it blows up, right? This is that because sometimes in life, you're building certain disciplines in your life and certain values around work ethic, around showing up, and it's painful. And like, why do that? Why? Especially when life is going Gucci, right? It's good. Like, I'm good, I'm making money, my career's flowing, my marriage is good. Like, you gotta prepare for the battle in your marriage before the battle comes. You gotta prepare for the hardships of raising kids before it comes. And what he really represents here is that, man, like, what are you doing to prepare for when the bad days come? Something's gonna come, challenges are gonna come. You're seeing it here in Inky, man, and it's crazy the way he brings it back tenfold and says, okay, cool. This hard work talk, this lingo, oh, boom, show up, be there on time. When something actually happens, what do you have in you? What's really in there? It can't be superficial. It can't be surface level. It's gotta be deep. It's gotta be real. And that's built through grit and work and grind and time clocked in.
A real deal situation. Like when a cat's wife gets sick, when your children get sick, when you're in the emergency room with your family, right? Don't none of that other stuff matter, right? But the work that you put in every single day, the mindset that you cultivate every single day, the spirit that you cultivate every single day, the work ethic, the dedication, the commitment, that's you, right? That's your essence. That's your ethos. That's who you are, right? Like, I'm Ink. Like, I believe it with every ounce of the word when I tell a cat, my arm and my hand paralyzed, my heart isn't. It isn't.
Right.
Like my arm and my hand is paralyzed. My mentality, it isn't. My dedication, my commitment level isn't. And so the next day for me was, all right, bro, regular scheduled programming. Let's rock, right? Because I didn't have anything to go back to.
Yeah.
Like, what, I'm gonna go back to a pallet? I done came all this way to go back to the floor at my grandma's house? So they can say, Ink, good run, bro. You went farther than anybody has ever went in our family. Come back to the trap. Nah, I'm gonna finish what I started. I'm gonna go on and get my degree. I'm gonna show my little cousins when we encounter adversity and opposition, you keep it pushing. A lot of people done sacrifice for you to be in this moment. That's why it's hard for me to understand when a cat get in a certain situation and they trick it off. Yeah. That's hard for me. Like I tell cats all the time, the hardest part of my injury wasn't my injury. It wasn't. The hardest part of my injury was walking into a facility and seeing cats take it for granted every single day.
Right.
Wow.
That was the hardest part for me. Knowing that a cat's mother had worked for them to be in that situation. Knowing that a coach had sacrificed to put them in that situation. Teachers believed in them, put them in that situation. And cats came in every single day and treated it like it was nothing. I ain't talking about the league. Whether you make it to the league or not, that's inconsequential. I ain't talking about the league. I'm talking about what will you do with the vehicle that you've been blessed with every single day to become a better man.
It's crazy. I always say this, man. Like I look back to what drives me, what motivates me. Man, somebody sacrificed at some point in time in your family legacy. Grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, 3 times great-grandparents, right? And no matter where you come from, whether you're from Europe, you're from Africa, you're Native American, you're from South America, you're from Asia, somebody got here. If you're watching this, you're in the United States of America, someone sacrificed to get you here. And I see people just piss away the opportunity they have in America today. I see people, man, you live in the greatest country in the world today. I still believe America is the greatest country in the world today. If you don't agree, go apply for a passport and move somewhere else. Simple as that. I've seen people bash America and bash this. No country is perfect. But we piss off the opportunity we have in America. We piss off the opportunity we have to make an impact, to make a living for ourselves, to build wealth for ourselves, to do things for our community. We just pissed away. We piss away the opportunity to have a healthy body. You hear what Ink is saying right now, man, about having a healthy mind, body. Like he wishes he had a healthy arm. And these guys are playing sports, man, just pissing it away, tricking it off is what he said. And so when I think about this here in life, like what are you pissing off? What are you tricking off, man? What talents, gifts were given to you, and you just say, I don't really appreciate it. So as you watch people like Inky, as you study people like Inky, and you say, okay, cool, man, like this guy's mindset, if I can subscribe to this mindset of thinking, how do I maximize what I got, and how does my perspective change to have gratitude for what I have right now in this moment in my life?
That's it, right? And so for me, when I couldn't play no more, it hurt. I cried. It was probably the toughest thing I've ever been through in my life. But I had stock in a spirit that I had created from the time I was 7 years old, that it wouldn't let me lay down.
Fucking me up.
Hey.
I got quick, friend. Was that a blessing?
Of course.
I don't know if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But just listening to you, bro, this shit is deep. Like you said, hell with the league. You might not have made it, but I don't know if you would have been what you are now without that injury.
No question.
Can you ever can you look at that injury as a blessing, which is a crazy damn thing to say?
Absolutely, 100%. Wow. And I can honestly say I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't a result of my injury.
Wow.
I 100% say it. I wouldn't be speaking. It doesn't match my personality. Like, that's why I'm so grateful to be able to do it, because it's total opposite of my personality. My personality is more reserved, observed, like I don't speak. And so for me doing it, I'm grateful for it because I know it's being orchestrated by a power that was a lot greater than me. And so I look at it as a 100% blessing, and I can 100% say if my injury didn't happen, I wouldn't be doing it.
Just listening to you describe, that day, was it September 9th, 2006 versus Air Force. Step for step, play for play, each and every second, just going back through it. I wanted to ask you, how often does that replay in your head, but we can save it. The circumstances in which you came up, as a kid that got you to Tennessee, all the different adversities that you've gone through. to hear you passionately just turn it on right now. You know, this is your game day. Speaking and trying to get everybody in play, I can tell is your game day. And we getting it for free. Right?
Listen, I'm be honest.
We getting it for free.
I stopped doing the show for like 5 minutes just now. And my eyes was watering. I was fired up.
I teared up too. But I guess with your transition, I do want to transition into that. What's your ticket, bro?
Yeah.
Like, what's the bag? What it costs to get you to speak?
It's different, man. It's different. It depends on the scope of work, man. It's different. But I will tell you this, it has changed, right? Because, you know, when I first started doing it, man, I was so grateful for the opportunity just to be asked to do it. You know, I never thought I would be doing it.
Right.
And so I was just going into a room and I would prepare and I would try to do my best in terms of the opportunity. But I'll never forget, man, I was in a room one day and I was speaking on a bill and there was several cats speaking. And a cat came in who was on the show, like a cat was running the show, the program. And it was me and like 3 other speakers in the room. And the cat came in and he was like, hey man, can y'all exit the room? Like my man wanna come in the room. He wanna have the room to himself. It was another speaker. So I wasn't tripping. I'm like, all right, cool, my man, get the room. But the other cats was like, they couldn't believe it. Like they was like, what? He want the room, all of us speaking, you know what I'm saying? And so they was like, my man wants some water, all type of stuff. And so we standing outside and it's hot. And my man get the room to himself. And one of the dudes that was on the program came over to me. He was like, I want to talk to you. And so I was like, bet, what's up? He was like, nah, let's walk and talk. He was like, you see all them cats over there? I was like, yeah. He was like, all them getting paid more than you. I was like, okay. He was like, and you better than all them. And he was like, not only are you better than them, he was like, you care more than them. It's like, it ain't nothing against them, but it's like, but I done talked to him, I don't care. And it's a transaction for him, right? And I was like, all right. He was like, man, don't be out here on the road and traveling and doing that to your family.
Wasting time.
Right.
I was like, I got it. Respect.
He says, do not be on the road traveling and doing that to your family. He said you brought it back to his family, like knowing your value, knowing your worth. Like this is a pivotal moment in Inky's life where he's looking at, okay, cool, I'm out here traveling, I'm talking to people, and it's crazy how like he's practically doing it for free, and he's passionate about it. He's just grateful for the opportunity. You ever meet somebody who's just grateful to be around, just grateful to have the opportunity to be in your presence, just grateful to work with you, grateful to be able to serve. And it's crazy, those are the people that usually elevate and get pushed to a level of significance where they make more money. But there's also a time where you guys say, okay, cool, what am I worth? What am I worth? I care more. You know, for them, it's just a transaction. They care more. Maybe you're an employee. Maybe you're like, man, Chris, I'm not an entrepreneur, man, I'm an employee, but do you care the most? Do you? It's been times in my job, my career, when I had a job, and I would ask for a raise. Like, man, I'm worth more. I think I'm worth more here, especially at a job, right? Now, as an entrepreneur, as you're building something, what are you doing? Like, what are you worth? What are you really worth when you show up there? And don't be out there on the road doing it to your family. That hits for someone like me. I'm a father, man. I'm a husband. I'm a provider. So if I'm gonna put the work in, do the work and get paid for the work, because the time away from your family, it's not fair to them.
And so at that point, it changed everything in terms of business structure, in terms of opportunity, in terms of preparation. You know, I view it different, right? Because I know, just being real, man, I know I done been in a room to where I done walked in a room and I'm the only black cat there. Young brother. And I can feel it when I walk on the stage, cat suited and booted, like, what my man got to say to us, right? I ain't knocking it. I respect it. I get it. Cat, 30 years my scene, like, I get it. I respect it, right? But I'm gonna handle the opportunity the right way, and I'm gonna do what I gotta do, because I feel like I'm being trusted to steward the opportunity so the next young brother that comes behind me that does what I do can get the opportunity to do it again. And so I ain't tripping, man. Like, every opportunity I get, I feel like you get what you give in life. If I steward the opportunity, I'm gonna get what I'm due, right? And so for me, that's how I view it. That's how I look at it. But yeah, man, I done been blessed. It's all good.
Like, that to me is down the line, right? We all eventually hope we understand our worth. And in understanding our worth, we also learn and realize, whether it's football, doing what you do, you kind of end up being worth what people are paid. Mm-hmm. So, but before you get to that, like, you got to find that passion. You know, like I tell people all the time, I was very little. I was 4 years old. My dad was coaching a football team, and I was on the side playing throw-up tackle with just like the regular kids because I wasn't old enough, and I was killing them.
Yeah.
And the coach was like, asked my dad, because my dad was coaching, like, why don't he play? And he was like, well, he's too young. Coach was like, he could do something. And I remember playing defensive end. My dad gave me one rule: keep contained. Right? And I was wide as hell.
Force everything.
Right? I was forced everything in, forced everything back. But my point in reliving that story was, from the time I touched the football, I knew exactly what to do with it. Right? You are one of the most dynamic, impactful speakers I have ever heard.
Thank you, man.
Right?
Thank you.
We knew when we
Means
touched
a
the
lot,
football that was a talent, that could be something. When did you know that this could be something that was not only a career, but a passion for you that changed lives?
One of my first gigs was in the backwoods of Mississippi. And at the time, I didn't have a contract, I didn't have a rider, I didn't, like nothing. I was just going on the strength of the opportunity. And I went to one of these places in Mississippi, and at the time, I had just moved back to Atlanta. And so I was leaving from being a graduate assistant. I was on Kiffin's staff. Kiffin went out to USC, offered me an opportunity to come with him. My wife had got pregnant with our daughter, Jada, and she was like, Ink, we gotta make a decision. So I made the decision to move back to Atlanta, to the same neighborhood I grew up in, a couple blocks away, to work at the rec center, to create leadership curriculums for the kids in my neighborhood. The plan was never to speak, right? I remember the cat telling me like, man, we could pay you like 20,000. I was like, bet. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, bet, I'm gonna be there in a few days, right? And I go back and I go there to the rec center, and they was like, oh man, we meant to tell you, man, you overqualified. And I was like, overqualified? It's a rec center, man. Got 2 degrees. They was like, yeah, bro, we don't know what to tell you. And at the time, I was getting little opportunities here and there, and cats would tell me, like, man, you need to speak. And I was like, nah, I'm cool on that.
Running from it.
And I took this opportunity in Mississippi. And I'll never forget, I pull up late night, and I'm in a field. Like, it's a barn in the back. I see strobe lights. I'm texting my cousins. I'm like, bro, if y'all don't hear from me in a few hours, like, this where I'm at. Like, I'm in one of those places, right? And the gentleman comes out, man, nice as all get out. And he was like, hey, man, this is my property. I'm doing this for the kids here, right? Hope it's a great experience. And I go and I speak. And I get back home like mid-morning. My wife waited up on me, and she was like, Ink, how did it go? I was like, babe, it went great. She was like, what they give you? Like, what they pay you? And I was like, man, they gave me this cool coffee mug. And she was like, you sure this is what you're supposed to be doing?
Coffee mug.
I was like, yeah, it felt right. And she was like, all right, go for it. And at that moment, man, I knew. Like, I felt it. When I spoke to them kids in Mississippi, in that field, in that barn, like, I felt it. I got a similar feeling that I got when I would be in the tunnel at Tennessee getting ready to run into that stadium and run through that tee. Right? I just got the feeling, regardless of what anybody would have said beyond that day, when I got that feeling, that was God's confirmation to me, like, Ink, I got you, right? I got you. Now you just got to have the faith to trust it. And so from that day moving forward, I just wanted to be obedient to what I felt God had called me to do with my life.
So the same excitement he's got coming out the tunnel. You ever played football before? You know, the high school, the higher level, the college level, NFL level, right? You come out the tunnel, man. It's exciting, and you come out. You see the fans out there screaming and yelling. That feeling before a game, you play sports, basketball, baseball, or you play. It's just like it's a feeling you try and chase again in life. And I recall a conversation with Inky Johnson in person. He spoke at, we did an event in Atlanta, Georgia, back in 2020. He was a keynote speaker of the event. I was speaking on stage. He was there also. I was hosting the event. He was there. And we both talked about playing ball. I played college ball. He played college football. And Inky played at a higher level than me for sure. And we're talking about just the getting back to remember. Now we're men in our 30s, man. We got kids. We got wives at home. And he said, hey, Chris, man, the feeling you get when you hit the stage, man, it's the closest thing to playing football and come through the tunnel. I said, Inky, you're right. Like, what we do for a living, like the feeling, the calling on our life, the purpose God's put into our heart. Like, if you don't feel that feeling, man, when you working, you're not working, in my opinion. If you don't feel called to do what you do, You don't feel that feeling of excitement when I show up and I wake up in the morning. And one of my biggest things about the channel here, man, Southern Earns, just talking to people in my communities that I go to, is just like, man, how do you get back to a point to where you feel that feeling you felt as a young man, as a young woman, whether it was school, whether it was sports, or whatever it was, like your purpose, your passion behind that, man. I think it's important for us to chase our purpose in life. If not, what are you living for?
Of motivating us. I was like, I want to talk to him about like some.
I'm gonna get him in a second.
Lord have mercy. I was like, I want to talk to him about some real stuff. Like, how does that shut off for you, the father, right? The husband. You know what I mean? When that guy comes into play, obviously you draw off of all of your own experiences, but is that when we see the ink, like you said, that's reserved, that sits back, that's quiet?
Yeah, man, I'm chill, man. My personality is chill. It's just when I talk about stuff that I'm passionate about and things that I'm involved in, like I get ramped up. But just in terms of my personality, like my kids, my wife, my mom, my little sisters, like if you ask them like, who is Ink? They're gonna be like, he chill, he's silly, right? Like it's a totally different person, like when I step on stage, because I'm speaking about things that are real to me, right? And so it's just who I am when I do that. But just in terms of my personality as a person, I'm chill, I'm reserved, I'm laid back, and I just chill, man.
Do they know who you are though? Like in in your house, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like we all played ball. My kids could care less.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like my son balls now.
Yeah.
My son balls now, and he knows. Like he looks back on it, and he like really appreciates what I did, how I worked, what I went through, like all those dope things. But like when they were kids, it's like, that's going to work. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Jordan like me more than he like him.
This is probably true.
He's 21, so he came to Miami. I told him a good time. Joe, my man.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, do they get it? And do they get a little bit of that? Sometimes you know, like when your kids brushing your teeth, you gonna brush your teeth better than anybody ever brushed their teeth. You gonna ambidextrously brush your teeth. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you really?
Man, I vowed to not be that dude, man. I vowed, bro. Like, but nah, man, they don't really be tripping on it, man. Even my wife, like, that's one of the reasons why I love my wife. Like, me and her been at it since 5th grade.
Wow.
Like, she ain't never cared about no ball, no sports. Like, she just never been about that. Like, she is who she is. She loved me for who I am. But my family don't really trip on it, man, because they just see me as dad. My wife see me as her husband. My mom see me as her son. My little sister see me as their big brother. You know, but they don't really be tripping on that, man. They
you know what I do?
whatever.
I'd be like, he'll do something. Well, you said yesterday that you got to be accountable every day. Where's your accountability?
You know what? That's a good ass question. What about when you mess up?
Yeah, all the time.
So you done been inspiring all these people, and then you mess up. How does that go? Anybody throw it back at you?
Oh, you already know. My wife gonna throw it at me. I'm talking about every time. My daughter, throw it at me. Got an 11-year-old daughter, my son 10. But absolutely, man, all the time. And it's good for me. I need it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need it in the...
Crazy. Your family would definitely humble you, man. Right? And you look back on whatever career profession you have, right? And like you heard something standard, man. And maybe you're a leader, you're a manager, you're a director, you're a supervisor. You go home, you're just daddy. You're just mama. Right, you're just brother, you're just sister, you're son, your daughter, right? And I can think back to my daughter, man, being 8 years old. Well, she'll be 8 here soon, and so I round the kids up. She's 8 and CJ's 6, right? But she's 7 now. She'll be 8 very soon here, and it's crazy to think about the accountability she has for me. We recently had a conversation about some of the shows we watch on television, the values and principles of the shows we watch on television, and why she can't watch certain shows as a kid. Like she's like, hey, you're 7 years old, you'll be 8 soon. Like, you're not watching this. Why not, Daddy? Because we don't allow these morals and values and principles in our house. And she says, what about you watching that show? And I can sit there and say like, hey, well, I'm dad. I can do it. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, whoa, this young girl, the conviction, right? The conviction of me what I say, do as I do, not as I say, is a leader, right? I say it all the time in front of my team members. and my agency I own, I'm like, okay, if I tell the people I work with to do as I do, not as I say, my daughter is now holding me accountable. Does daddy do as you do, not as you say? What happens? And so it's crazy just watching Inky say this here, man, because the family would definitely hold you accountable. But it's refreshed me because like they know you for who you are, man. Just family, flesh and blood, man. Not somebody on some television, or some YouTube channel, or some leader who's doing significant things. To just see you for who you are. So as you wrap up here, guys, man, this was a phenomenal interview, man. Hats off to the guys over at the Pivot Podcast and Inky Johnson, man, for what he's done and for being so transparent in his journey in life, because I think back to all of us, right, as we're watching speakers speak on motivation and their experiences, we can all draw upon our own life experiences, man. So if you're someone who got value from today's video, guys, do not forget to comment in the comment section below your favorite part from Inky Johnson's journey. Subscribe to our channel here, guys, at Serve to Earn, and do not forget to follow us on Instagram at SoldOutServer. Until next time, we'll see you soon.